Take 3000.
Hi everyone, Duke the Dog here for Take 3000. Thanks for tuning in. On this episode, fire up your Batmobiles, load up your utility belts, and avoid that Smilex gas, as we're going to be getting into 1989's Batman. Roll credits.
For copyright restrictions, we added on the song. That's camera action, let's get rolling on. So grab a popcorn tub and you clap aboard. Let's get a geek on as we dive into another show. Please like, share, subscribe. If you like what we do, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate your views.
Set the scene, especially for you young pups out there. In 1989, practical effects were still king. CGI, computer-generated imagery, was still in its earliest stages and being used in small doses here and there. There also wasn't 97 comic book movies being released every week, and you humans weren't all glued to phones walking into lampposts whilst texting in the streets. The internet wasn't seen as more important than oxygen at this point. Just let that sink in a second. No apps. I'll say it again. No apps.
Can somebody tell me what kind of a world we live in?
Now, Warner Brothers had achieved big success with Superman, the motion picture, back in 1978 with Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner directing, helping us to believe a man could fly. But to get The Dark Knight to the big screen, it would take us to the end of the 80s. With a young filmmaker called Tim Burton in the director's chair. Now, I believe Tim was still somewhere in his 20s at this point, very young back in those days for taking on such a massive movie project. But he just had success with 1988's Beetlejuice with a certain Michael Keaton, and it led Warner Brothers to entrusting him with bringing Gotham to the big screen. Now, Batman, of course, its origins came from the comic book and the mind of Bob Kane and Bill Finger. It was said that Bob Kane was really excited about the project and really supportive. Tim brought his trademark gothic flair to the movie, and not only did it become the most financially successful film of the year, making literally all of the money for Jack Nicholson, who made a very good deal, it also became very much the template for the modern superhero blockbusters for years to come. Even to this day, it really was the ultimate playbook for modern blockbuster marketing mastery, and in the run-up to its release, you couldn't escape this symbol, leading the hype machine into Phantom Menace levels of overdrive, which, if you were around in 1999, 10 years later, you'll know was also massive. Onto the cast. They bagged the legend that is Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Me?
With most people saying, yeah, of course, who else?
I didn't ask.
Michael Keaton will be brought in to bring the Caped Crusader to the big screen. Now, at the time, this prompted lots of backlash for Keaton.
What?
As he was mainly known at this point for his comedic roles in Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom, and people feared that as a result, the film would be going down the campy road like the Adam West Burt Ward 60s series, not the darker, more gothic tone that was actually planned. Say it with me, hashtag, I'm glad there was no Twitter in those days. Ask Ben Affleck about his initial backlash. The casting department and Tim Burton knew that Michael could bring something to the role. The casting director and Tim both saying there was something in his eyes that made him look like he'd be a guy who would dress as a giant bat. Also, he impressed with his more dramatic role in the movie Clean and Sober.
Oh, right.
Tim Burton really wanted to get into the psychological aspects of the character, and he knew Michael Keaton could play both sides of that character, the dark and the light.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Now, Michael Keaton is one of my favorite actors ever, so just going to admit that because I love his trademark naturalistic style, and I'm pleased to say that he proved many of the doubters wrong when the movie came out. He continues to show his diverse range to this day, jumping from all kinds of genres of movie, and man, he was so damn close to that Oscar for Birdman. Well, I'm still pulling for you, Mr. Keaton. Anyway, enough fan-pooching for now. Also, we've got the lovely Kim Basinger. Basinger? Basinger. Basinger? Basinger. The lovely Kim.
Stop the press. Who is that? That's Vicky Vale.
In the role of Vicky Vale. This was a very late casting, as it was meant to be played originally by Blade Runner's Sean Young. But unfortunately, after a horse riding accident from rehearsing a scene that was actually cut from the movie, awkward, Kim came in to play the part of Vicky Vale instead of Sean. Now, Sean's since gone on and said she thinks it was because the producer had a thing for Kim.
You must be joking.
Who knows? In came Kim, and Tim Burton's even said they may have even started shooting when she came in, or it was very close to the start of shooting when she came into the project. And to be honest, I kind of got a thing for Kim.
She is great, isn't she?
She grounds it, works really well with Michael Keaton's naturalistic style, both helping the movie have a grounding away from the comic book antics that obviously take place within it as well. We've also got Billy Dee Williams in the mix, playing Harvey Dent, Michael Gough as Alfred, Robert Wuhl playing the role of Alexander Knox, the reporter, Pat Hingle playing Commissioner Gordon,
Oh my God.
and Jack Palance playing Jack Nicholson's boss, because, I don't know, who else could you get to play Jack Nicholson's boss but Jack Palance?
Smart thinking. That's the way to go, in fact.
Apparently, on the first day of shooting with Jack Palance, Tim Burton was kind of petrified with him, as he was giving him some direction, and Jack Palance took him aside and was like, I've made over, okay, it's a bad impression, but I have made over 500 movies. What have you done? Yeah, I think Tim was a little afraid of him, as he says in the Batman commentary on the Blu-ray.
That's all, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. That's all.
Apparently, it was Jack Nicholson who convinced the filmmakers to cast close friend Tracy Walter as Bob the Goon.
Remember, you are my number one.
Bob's great. This is a little part of our discussions that I like to call what you would expect versus what you wouldn't expect. Things you would expect to be in Batman. The Batsuit. The Batmobile. The Batwing. The Batcave. Gadgets. The Joker.
This town needs an enema.
Crazy villainous plots.
Do I look like I'm joking?
Action. Fighting. Things you wouldn't expect to see in Batman. Disappointed hookers. Card tricks with your Uncle Jack. The Party Planning Committee.
Maybe celebrating in bankruptcy court. This festival is $250,000 in the red and we haven't seen one balloon.
Weird fetishes.
Like bats.
Curly has Lando Rage, Lando Rage, Lando Rage.
Say this, son of a bitch.
OCD, house maintenance. Come dine with me. Attack of the Mimes. Arts and crafts. Witness the absolute horror of newsreaders with no makeup. Vase smashing. Vase, vase, vase. Vase smashing. Manual labor. Bat attack. but of a baseball variety. Bad home security for a secret base. Bad Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. The old banana peel routine.
Sorry, Knox. These two slipped on a banana peel.
Train with Wayne fitness video. Coming soon to a DVD near you. Strictly Come Dancing with the Stars. $8.24 in the Big Brother house. The death of a shoe. Now let's get into the details. The story of the movie, well, there's a couple of things going on in this one. It's basically the Joker's origin story. We get hinted at Batman's origin story as the film goes on, but he's already there. He's already fighting crime in Gotham, but he's still a bit of a mystery and people don't really know about him. So that might be a change for all you people who are used to the origin superhero films, because there he is in the first scene. Pops up, Batman. There he is, fighting crime.
I'm telling you, man, a giant bat.
This is very much about the Joker's origin story, and we get to see him stitched up by his boss, basically, and as a result of an encounter with Batman, thrown into some chemicals which change him into the maniacal villain that is the Joker, and arch nemesis to Batman. The Joker's maniacal plan continues into the film, where he tries to make Gotham's citizens into smiling dead people. Yeah, he's crazy. He's the Joker. In amongst all this, Vicky Vale and Alexander Knox are interested in trying to find out more about the Batman. And the film is very much his introduction to the world of Gotham, and ultimately it all leads to a big face-off between Batman and the Joker, with a bit of romance thrown in the mix, bit of humor thrown in the mix, and that study of dark and light and psychology that Tim Burton was going for. Spoiler alert, Batman wins. Shh. Don't tell anyone I told you. The actual world that's created is very timeless. Even watching it this year, they wanted to go for a mixed kind of era. So it's a bit classic, there's a bit of modern in there, but it's not really defined in an era. Obviously the cars are a little bit 80s, but the costumes are a little bit more in the past. And as a result, it does kind of hold up. It's one of those things about the film that you don't really think about, but...
You know how concerned people are about appearances. This is attractive, that is not. Well, that is all behind me.
That timeless feel to it, with the sets and the costumes.
And if I may say so, quite special.
On listening to the commentary with Tim Burton, it was clear he's very much interested in the psychological aspects of the character. That's what drew him to it. The fact that you've got this character who's very internal, and he didn't want the Batman character to be flashy, and he really wanted to explore that dark and the light side of things.
You know how people have different sides to their personality?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we can't talk about costumes without getting into the Batsuit, which, and again, you have to remember, at this time, the Batsuit we were all used to seeing was Adam West in his tights. So when the Batsuit was shown, yeah, we're kind of used to the rubber Batsuits now and the superhero look, but when this came out, this was massive. And when they brought the trailer out and people finally got a look at that Batsuit, I think straight away they knew that the tone of this film wasn't na 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 in the tights.
He's at home, washing his tights.
It was tougher, it was darker, it was something else. And I still think that costume holds up, even by today's standards. When you compare it to the likes of Bale or Affleck's costume. Not sure about Robert Pattinson's yet, but we'll see. So that suit really was a massive step forward in the superhero genre, because even if you look at Superman the movie, we were still looking at tights. But this is where we started to bring superhero costumes into something more visceral in the movie world. Kudos to Michael Keaton, because it sounds like it was the most awkward and heavy costume in the world. He couldn't hear very well. That's why he started doing the Batman, moving his whole body. I think that came from him just because of the way the costume was. Because he said the first time he used it, he moved his face and it unstuck from his face.
Nice outfit.
Props plays a massive part of this film, because you can't have Batman without the Batarang and all the gadgets. In the words of the Joker, where does he get those wonderful toys? And I think the props department really brought it by making these comic book gadgets and the utility belt all into practical working tools for Batman in the movie. It's not CGI, it's practical effects. They will have made these things work.
You weigh a little more than 108.
Vehicles. Well, let's face it, the main vehicle in this film was the Batmobile, and it did not disappoint. It looks awesome to this day. And yeah, the tumble is cool and everything, but for me, the 1989 Batmobile is still right at the top of the list. When they brought out the collector's limited edition giant Lego Batmobile, this one, I had to do it. It took me longer to build because of my paws, but it had to be done. It's an amazing looking thing, and as Tim Burton explains in the commentary, it could really go fast, faster than the size of the set would even allow. So it's great that we've got them shots in the woods where it really lets it rip. What a fantastic piece of machinery, and iconic. This Batmobile is possibly one of the things, apart from the suit, that really sold this movie to all the skeptical people thinking they were getting another 60s campy show. When that Batmobile flies through the factory and blows it up, I have no words. But maybe that's nostalgia, who knows. Snyder Batmobile fans might be cursing me right now, but for me, 1989 Batmobile, absolute the biz. Also, we've got the Batwing, which very cleverly, when it goes up to the moon, makes the bat symbol. An awesome shot. Okay, some probably think it's cheesy now, but that again was very iconic back in the day, an iconic shot. And it was just exciting to not just have the Batmobile, but the Batwing in the same movie.
Why didn't somebody tell me that he had one of those things?
This leads us on to effects quite nicely. Now, as mentioned at the start, the effects in this film were done practically. We've got miniatures and matte paintings because no CGI. However, for me, that brings a tangibility to it. As amazing as modern effects have got, I still think there's something about them tangible effects. Okay, we can tell they're a miniature. Yeah, we can see they're a painting, but the artistry involved in bringing them to the big screen was fantastic. The work on the Batwing sequence as it smashes down into the city, yeah, you can kind of tell it's a miniature now, but it still has a reality to it. It still has this tangibility, and I think it still works really well.
He stole my balloons!
Tim Burton's done all kinds of films over the years now, still with his trademark Gothic style, but this was the big leagues, and he delivered.
That sounds nice.
The cultural impact of Batman was massive.
Is it hot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's real hot.
I was taking a walk the other day, and still that symbol. Although the OCD of me is like, why did they cut the edges off? Why? But this stylized image is in itself iconic. And as Jack Nicholson says,
this is beautiful. You know what I mean? This is a great piece of graphic art.
The music by Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman at this point had done Pee-wee's Big Adventure with Tim Burton, so Tim went to him for this. Danny Elfman, of course, at this point was probably more well known for his work in Oingo Boingo. Am I saying that right? Oingo Boingo. Oingo Boingo? Oingo Boingo. The band. Weird Science. Get the score, get it on in your car, drive down the street, and try not to pretend you're in the Batmobile as Batman. Of course, while we're talking about music, we also need to mention Prince, who was signed to Warner Brothers at the time and ended up making a concept album for the film, with many of the songs being used in the film itself. It's hard to imagine the film now without Prince's involvement. One of the things this film does a lot better than people remember, I think, is the love story aspect. With Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale, you really feel that grounding in their relationship, especially when they're having the meal scene and kind of starting to connect. Probably from Kim and Michael's performance, it's so naturalistic.
We went to dinner. I thought we felt something, and I
if you give me a
trusted you,
chance to
and I even slept with you. I can't believe I did that. And then you wouldn't.
Like Batman, Bruce Wayne is a mystery to her, and you get to see this kind of unfold.
Oh my God, you're married.
No, I'm not married.
In this particular piece, I think this is what grounds it. I think this is what makes all the fantastical elements of the film work better.
You know.
No.
No.
Let's now check out some critic reviews and viewer comments on the movie to make everything nice and clear for you.
A triumph of design over story, style over substance, a great looking movie with a plot you can't care much about. Batman, the movie event of the summer, is a psycho thriller posing as an action-adventure movie, a breathtaking ride through a funhouse populated with all too believable ghouls, phantoms and tortured souls. The story is a mess. Scenes and lines of dialogue make no sense. Keaton makes hardly any impression in the role, in or out of the mask.
The theatrical release of Batman celebrates 30 years this year and holds up for being the product of its era with regards to cinematic entertainment. Is it interesting? Fitfully. Is it fun? Not much. Gotham City fans, not much.
Batman is a stunning achievement, especially through the incredible and unique visualization of director Tim Burton. Overly dark, broody, and campy. A disservice to the classic TV show and the more serious comic series. A dark and refreshing interpretation of one of Comic Kingdom's most beloved characters. Batman successfully wiped away the memory of the camp 1960s television show and proved that comic book movies can be highly entertaining viewing.
There you go. Really clear. You are perfectly welcome. My top 10 scenes. At 10. The Batwing action at the finale. At 9. Jack Napier's introduction scenes.
Don't worry about it. If this clown could touch Grissom, I'd have handed him his lungs by now.
At 8. The casino intro to Bruce Wayne. At 7. Anything with the Joker and Bob. At 6. The scene with the Batmobile going into the cave and revealing it. At 5. The kick-ass fight scene. At 4. The Joker introduction scene where he comes from the shadows into the light. At 3, the Joker's visit to Vicky with the whole "you want to get nuts" and the dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight. At 2, the Batmobile in the factory. At 1, probably the museum rescue. So it's hard for me to separate out the nostalgia associated with this film. As many of the films I'm going to cover on this channel, I'm sure that many of you younger pups coming to this after the kinetic, origin story-driven, high-octane, action-packed modern superhero movies of the MCU and DCU may find this a bit of a duller affair for your tastes. However, I would encourage you to watch at least to see where it all began. For me, this version of Batman creates a fantastic gothic comic book feel, and sure, you could argue that some of the effects aren't quite holding up to today's standards, but personally I would still take a tangible miniature over too much computer software haze any day. The Batsuit still looks awesome to me, even when you compare it to the more modern takes of Bale and Affleck. It's very easy with these long-running franchises and stories that have been developed generation after generation to spend most of your time with comparisons, which I totally understand, but personally I try and set things in their own bubbles and enjoy them on their own merits wherever possible. This is a different take to the reality-grounded brilliance of the Nolan films, or even the highly camp Schumacher era, or the artistic palette of the pumped-up and quite serious Snyderverse. They all have their own sensibilities, which eventually I look forward to exploring on this channel. And you are in fact allowed to enjoy them all for these different reasons. Although we're all going to probably have preferences. If Batman and Robin hadn't gone so camp, maybe we would never have arrived at Nolan's Batman Begins. For me, Keaton is still my favourite Batman, as he brings so much subtlety and colour to the dark character without being showboaty about it. Many argue that the biggest problem with this incarnation of Batman in this movie is that it's not enough about the title character, but I think he has room to breathe in there, and it gives us enough for us to know why he puts on the suit, without that full origin story of him creating the suit and the car and everything else. But the parents bits showing in there, the twist of the Joker killing his parents thrown in at some point, which was not part of the comics, but for this version seems to work, and gives us that classic "you have a dance with the devil in the pale moonlight" whole thing going on, adding to its gothic feel and kind of upping the stakes for the end battle when he realizes that it was the Joker who killed his parents. Sam Hamm has gone on to say he wasn't responsible for this or letting Vicky Vale into the Batcave, even though he wrote the original scripts. It was developed as production was ongoing, which Tim Burton found quite strange because he'd never worked on a film of this kind where the script would develop as it goes along. Michael Keaton said his way into all of this was through Bruce Wayne's character, and he would let the suit help him figure out Batman, which he obviously figured out as he was doing. Jack Nicholson very much does steal the show with his scene-chewing performance of insanity and psychoticness. It truly was an epic win on the casting of these leads. It was a really smart move not to bring Robin in at this point, as it allows for that darker Bat vibe and the quieter intensity of the character, which is what Tim Burton was going for. Again, the question of who is the best Joker comparisons are always being brought up, but I like to think they all bring out different flavours of the character. The supporting cast I feel are nicely matched in the mix. There's something very sublime about Basinger's Vicky Vale for me. She's playing the damsel in distress, but she's also a brilliant photojournalist who is piecing the puzzle together of Batman. She holds her own at times, especially when she's faced with the insanity of the Joker. She definitely looks a lot calmer than I would if faced with him, especially if he showed up at my house with a random giant box. I also enjoyed Robert Wuhl's character as Alexander Knox. He was very much the voice of the audience's perspective going into the film, asking the questions about Batman and where he'd come from. He very much gave us that narrative line in, and it's a shame he didn't feature in Returns or subsequent movies, even with just small press cameos somewhere. I do like a bit of sequel continuity. Why, Katie Holmes? Why? Why didn't you come back? Sorry, different issue there. And I still love you too, Maggie. Speaking of continuity, Billy Dee was a smooth Harvey Dent, and it's a real shame we didn't get to see his Harvey Two-Face in later movies, as I bet that would have been very cool to see. But I really like his addition into Batman here as well. Let's wrap this up.
Hey, it's okay. You can tell me.
Okay.
For me, this was an event as well as a movie, a milestone, and still brings nostalgia-fueled Bat joy. If you're a Batman fan and been following through his different incarnations, You'll probably have your own preferences. You'll probably have your own favorites as to who portrayed the best version of the characters. If, like me, this was your guy, it's always going to have a special place, even if you recognize the brilliance of the more modern incarnations of the Bat. Again, I believe your perspective might be based on your exposure and age, and I'd like to think that younger viewers would enjoy the gothic world of Tim's first Batman, but could possibly see them being bored and wanting more of the flash and speed of a Snyder Bat.
How's the soup?
For some of us, this late 80s gothic interpretation of the Bat is always going to hit us in the feels. When you hear that first few bars of the Elfman score, or you see that 1989 collector's edition Lego Batmobile and say, "Take all my money." Or to Keaton just simply holding the guy off the side of the building with those words, "I'm Batman." Or Nicholson's manic,
If you gotta go with a smile.
the movie flavour of The Dark Knight that shook off the 60s pow and whack and helped us further introduce us to the modern superhero blockbusters that's now as synonymous with cinema as popcorn and hot dogs. All you humans, be kind to each other out there. Mwah! See you soon.
Take 3,000.